Carbon, you rock.
Yes, we do. We'll see if we have that toolbar the whole time.
All righty. Looks like we got some folks online. We got some folks here. Thank you for staying after that rousing service. Coming together. So I'm Reverend Mary. I use she, her pronouns, and we'll do what we do, which is to light a chalice as we begin. We begin this forum. These words are from Anastasia Baroche. As we light this flame of hope, may our congregation become a kaleidoscope of souls and people. In the presence of this flame, in me, in you, in us, it's an invitation to sit at the table. May we send our soul fire through these challenging and trying times to open the hearts and minds of all who enter our doors. So today's forum is about the two services schedule and how it's going. We returned to two services in January after a hiatus of one service of almost 5 years. So I came to join you in August of 2019. There were two services then. And then in March of 2020, things shut down for COVID, and we went to one service. And we stayed there until January of this year. So I have way more experience with you all at one service instead of two, and it's different. So when we started the schedule for two services, it's different than how it used to be. We said we'd give this a try for a few months and then ask for feedback about how it was going. And that's what today is all about. We want to hear from you about what's working, what may not be, what we want to take into consideration. So joining me today is Susan Moon, who's the president of the board. And Susan asked for me to pull together some numbers and information and how Sundays work. And she's going to go through that with you. And then we'll ask some questions about how it's going. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you for coming. It was a great service. And so the question about this forum is, how are two services working? And if you go to the next slide, oh, wait, I can do this. Maybe?
I think I have to change one thing and then you can.
Okay, so basically there is a survey available that's on site, and the link will be in the chat. And today we're also going to take notes and listen to what you guys talk about and write it down, because we want this to be as effective as it can be for everybody. So the next slide. It always scares me because the back always falls off this. So the average Sunday attendance last year, when we just had one service, so this is June 2023 to June 2024, was 167. The average Sunday attendance this year with one service, which was July 2024 to January 2025, was 172. So about the same. Our attendance currently is consistently over 200, and the average is about 226. The range is 173 to 278. And so that includes the people online. We view our online community as part of our congregation. There are people that, for various reasons, either can't attend that one particular Sunday in person, or are unable, or are housebound, or have an illness that means they can't come into a large group situation. And so we really try to remember always that there's an online community as well as the community of people that are on site. And the next part of this, I made a little bit fun on purpose, I hope. Oh, I'm going to just go forward to the... So a long time ago at another church, I volunteered to pass the offertory. And I was standing in the back holding the basket, and I realized I didn't really know what to do. I mean, I knew like the general stuff, but I thought, I wonder what I do when it's done. Who do I give it to? And I realized that there's so many things at church that seem so simple and actually have a ton of moving pieces and require a lot of people to help. And so that's what we're going to talk about the next couple slides, is how two services happen at OUUC. And so the first part is about 6 months before that, Reverend Mary schedules the speakers. So she starts thinking about things a whole season before. And then the Thursday before the service, there's a Zoom gathering, and whoever's involved in the service, which changes a little bit. In this case, it usually involves Reverend Mary, Troy, Reverend Sarah, and Teresa, who's the tech coordinator. And I wasn't sure, actually, if the lay leader also participates in this event. My favorite part of this, which you can see very small on the screen, is apparently one of the most important questions is if they're going to be puppets. So that's what the little animals are, because Reverend Sarah often does such great things with her children's time and the stories she tells. So they get together on Thursday and plan the whole service, and then we go to Sunday. So I didn't know any of this, so I learned it too, and I'm looking at Carbon with great appreciation because he usually gets here around 7:30, reviews the scripts, the slides, checks the equipment, and tests the streaming, sorry. Hopefully there's not much screaming, and tests the screaming. So he's the first person here. And then at 8 a.m., the worship team arrives, which is Reverend Mary, Troy, Reverend Sarah, and obviously this fluctuates a little bit, and then whoever the lay leader is. They come at 8, and they do sound checks and check the setup, and there's always a script that gets sent out, and so they have a script of what's going to happen during the service. And then at 8:15, the choir arrives for setup and warm-up if it's a Sunday that the choir is here. So while you are probably at home still in your pajamas, all these people are already here. And then at 8:30, the religious assistant and the RE assistant and the child care staff come. And that's Anissa and the several people that are child care. And then the first worship service is from 8:45 to 10. Okay. And you can see the congregation off there in the right. So one of the things that I was impressed with is how much stuff goes on before the congregation is even here, and how many people show up. I'm especially impressed with Carbon and technology, because when that goes wrong, it's really embarrassing, and everybody is sitting watching you try to fix something that's a little panicky. So I especially am grateful that we have so many people to do that. And then there's coffee hour, and during the coffee hour, the first worship service attendees get a chance to get coffee. The choir gets a chance to get coffee because usually they repeat their presence in the second service. And the worship leaders can take a little bit of break, and I imagine sometimes fix things that didn't go quite right. And then the second service starts at 10:30 and is slightly different because it is also streaming on Zoom and being recorded for YouTube. And so that involves Reverend Mary, Troy, Reverend Sarah, the lay leader, Carbon and or Teresa and or any of the number of people that we see back there that are helping with the tech. I know Fritz often helps with the tech, and Ryan Bay. So there are a lot of those people. And you can see to the right, next to the clip art with the pulpit, you can see all the things that are happening in the second service that don't always happen in the first, because we are trying to record it. We are trying to make sure that we have something that's appropriate for streaming later. So there's an even harder level of technical competence. And then the choir is often still here, and then the congregation. And then at 12:15, if we have a forum, like this one, the board does forums. I know the EAT group does forums, a lot of different people in church. This is where you find out what's happening around the church and in the various parts of the congregation that people belong to that do. It's how you find out about, my brain just left. It's how you find out about what kind of service projects we're doing, and other things, and that's usually at the forums. And what happens at the forum is Carbon is still here, and usually Reverend Mary and or Reverend Sarah are still here, and then the Happy Balloons people are the people presenting the forum, because this is a place where lay leaders or people from various committees come and talk about what they're doing. We're about to have a couple really important forums because we have to explain the budget to you because it takes money to run the church. And then after that, you get to vote. And so that's a big deal for them every year. And you can see I put about half the congregation. Sometimes we have a really small attendance. Sometimes we have a ton of attendance. And I kind of view that as people voting with their feet and helping you know what they're worried about. So anytime anybody's here, we're grateful that you're here, and we love to hear your opinions. And then we all go home, you know, around 1:30, there's kind of a recap. We make sure everything's okay. And then later in the afternoon, some tech team member, I know Teresa probably does this a lot, will upload the video to the OUUC website, and will upload the video on YouTube. And I know I have sent some of the YouTube videos to my children and said, you're going to really like this part. This one today, I'm going to send to a friend of mine who loves folk music. So these forums are a little complicated for us to keep up with, but are great for the church to be able to have a way to share it with other people, and also to serve people that might never be able to come in. And then we all go home, and again, the next Thursday, the whole cycle starts again. So it takes a ton of work and a ton of people to do what seems to be something we all just get to come and sit and listen to. And I didn't even cover how we get coffee, how we get treats, how we get anything that we get out there in the commons. This is just what makes the service run. So our question is, as Reverend Mary said, we had one service for years because of the pandemic, and we decided we needed 2 services because our attendance was going up because things were becoming so difficult in the world, I think. And we actually talked to a lot of other UU churches and found out that they were having the same increase, and we wanted to plan for it because there's a lot of evidence that if people come into a meeting of some kind and it's more than 75% full, they end up feeling uncomfortable and may not come back. And so it really behooves us to make sure that everybody has a seat, that they can sit in here. That's why we split into 2 services. And so today is to talk about that, hear from you guys what you think might help it, maybe something you love about it, because it doesn't hurt to say positive things too. So whatever feedback you have, and I'm going to give it back to Reverend Mary, and I'm going to take notes. So that's why I'm writing down, because part of what we've committed to on the board is making sure that when we get feedback, we don't just let it disappear. We keep up with it. We tell you what we're going to do with it. We explain if it leads to a change or if everybody just seemed happy. So I'm going to be taking some notes, and Reverend Mary's going to come back up and ask you some questions. Is that okay?
Thank you so much, Susan. There's questions coming up, so that's great, Carbon. And I know you might want to get something to eat as well, because it's been a long day for you. So just a couple things to mention. One is Susan mentioned the kitchen crew. They get here early, they start the coffee. The first service kitchen crew set out the snacks and that kind of stuff. They turn over, there's a second kitchen crew, and they do all the cleanup. So usually the dishwashers are running when I leave here on Sunday afternoon. We also have ushers and greeters. You all get here for first service, I think about 8:30. Put out the welcome sign, make sure that there's name tag cards and all those kinds of things, put the stole on and are ready to greet people here. So there's a whole infrastructure of volunteers that help make Sunday morning happen as well. And then there's usually a volunteer that joins Carbon at the tech desk for the second service, because it takes 2, if not 3 people to make sure that we got all the technology going. I wanted to just mention about the choir. I asked the choir to stay for both services. I know that there's been different ways of doing that over the years with different ministers. I appreciate that the choir's been willing to do that. I think it's a real benefit to have the choir present. And so that makes for a long day for the choir as well. And so as we were thinking about how do we navigate how much time between 2 services and such, we wanted to make it manageable for the choir. The other thing we considered is if we have a longer time between services, we'd have different music at each service. That means you probably would see the choir sing once a month instead of twice or 3 times a month. So there's just, there's give and take in all of these things. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Before I do that, I want to see if you have any questions. Is there anything you're curious about or that wasn't clear or that you want to ask about, either here on site or online?
Can we wait for a microphone really quick? Sorry.
Do you have a count of how many new members we have since January?
We welcomed 12 new members in March, and we're getting ready to welcome another group on June 8th. So and I'm not sure how many that is because folks are still deciding right now. And, I'll just mention that members is one way to gauge how a congregation's doing. Most people who look at the vitality of a congregation look at the Sunday morning attendance as a measure. And there's a couple things with membership that are challenging. One is that people don't join, and membership in most UU churches is going down, attendance is going up. So whatever that's about. So we pay attention to both. Thank you, Janae.
Are you going to survey the whole congregation on how they think this is working out? Because there's so few people here.
Yes, as Susan mentioned, there is a link to a survey in the Tuesday update, and anybody can click on that, and there's the same questions I'm going to ask you today, and a few more are in that survey, so anybody can answer those questions, and we're hoping that people will. Please spread the word. Troy has also had a conversation with the choir. Specifically, I've had a conversation with the worship arts team because the celebrants are affected as well. They get here at 8 o'clock or 8:10 with me, and they stay for the entire time as well. So lots of lay folks. So we've targeted some groups we want to hear from, and we're hoping that people will answer the survey questions. Any questions online, Carbon? Okay. So I'm curious, how many of you attend the first service? Or on occasion attend the first service? Yeah. Yeah, you're in the choir, so you attend the first, so all of them. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And folks online, are they, I don't know how many folks are online, Carbon, if there's. Yeah, so Connie was here first service doing the greeter thing. Mm-hmm. And then how many folks attend second service? Yeah. Yep. So that's what we found is our attendance is larger at the second service in part because of folks online, but usually the on-site attendance is larger the second service as well. And that's been pretty consistent since January. So I'm wondering, are there any transportation barriers that you encounter coming to services at whatever time it is that you come? Now the Zoom folks, you just get to go to your computer. For the folks who are coming on site, are there any challenges with bus, driving, parking, anything like that?
Well, my hope was that it would relieve crowding both inside in the sanctuary and in the parking lot. To me, it's even, if anything, worse in the parking lot. And so, me personally, I'm disappointed in the result, and I'm not enthusiastic about going forward with the exact same format because of because they're so close together. Because you want people, staff and others there through the whole morning, then the transition is so close together that you're crowded in the parking lot, you're crowded in the narthex, and everything like that.
Arlene?
I wonder, since I drive and I have to attend both services, and I often see the choir. Many of us are older and our, mobility isn't that great, so we'll park close so we can walk in. And then all those spots are not available for people coming to the service. And they're also blocked, so people coming to second service can't park there either. And I was wondering if we could work out something like meeting and parking at the mall and riding the bus over or something. I don't know where else we could park to leave the spaces in our parking lot open for congregants other than us.
Yeah, thanks, Arlene. Yeah, we got somebody online?
I have a microphone to.
Oh, we've got two here.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. So Teresa online shares, maybe we can encourage more people to carpool or bus to church.
I would just add, as far as the overlap, I appreciate that overlap time. So my first concern with having two services was that I would miss so many of my friends and people that I would normally see at the second. So I know that if I can come early, then I can see those people in the Commons beforehand. So I appreciate that it's a little closer together, but I do understand the parking is more
Absolutely.
challenging.
I park in the lower lot and I never have a problem down there, so I'm suggesting that maybe we could encourage people who are able to walk the stairs to park in the lower lot so that people who can't walk the stairs can park up above.
Well, I'm also one who needs, accessible parking, handicap parking, and I prefer to come to the second service because getting here, 9 o'clock, hey, that's really early. But it's often challenging to find, a place when the second service, the first service is, those people aren't left yet, and we're coming in just 45 minutes after that service ended. So I too would say, for that reason, I would prefer that the services be a full hour apart rather than 45 minutes, because it means a challenge every Sunday trying to find a place to park.
So for those of you who have been around for a while, the original schedule here was services at 9:15 and 11, which meant that there was 45 minutes between the two services, just like there is now. Did you all have the same challenges then? Yes. That you remember? Okay, so.
The same solutions.
And all of us
Are you having deja vu? Is that the, yeah, okay. Sure, okay. Thank you, Janae.
Yeah, and I'm noticing in the choir that new people think we start at 11 and not 10:45, and they're coming in at 11. So most churches start at 11. So if you're brand new or to the town, you would just think it would be at 11, and then having to come in when things are already going on is kind of embarrassing for new people. So I think maybe the 11 might be better.
Okay. And I'll just say, with COVID, folks, we take the count for who's here at 10 after the service or 15 after the service starts, because folks are coming in for those 10 to 15 minutes. So getting to church early isn't a thing.
So my part of that, because I think that probably every week, and then I have to do a forum and I realize how long a day it makes if we make more, it's like one of those things that creeps up on you. If we want people to stay for forums, then that means they're here for several hours. And often in the board, if we schedule a really important forum, we try to provide heartier food so that people are not hangry during the forums. So there are a bunch of pieces to it that are interesting.
Sure. Anita?
I'm wondering how big of a space the forums typically need, because if we had it in a smaller room, we could just be eating our lunches. My stomach being my main motivator.
It's the space, Anita. It's mostly the technology. This is where everything is for us to be able to live stream and record. Yeah, so that's why we do it in the sanctuary. And I'll just say, one of the conversations we're having as a board and an executive is, what are the capital projects ahead of us? Replacing the carpet in here or the flooring in here is on the schedule for the next several years, one of the discussions I think needs to be, do we not have carpet in here so that folks can bring food and beverages in here? Because we could also have Thursday dinner tables in here as well.
We could have dancing in here.
Could have dancing in here. And, my grand plan is that we have a labyrinth painted on the floor, but, that's a.
And how many members does our congregation have now?
I haven't done a count, Anita, and I will for the annual meeting. Part of that is we always gain and lose people during stewardship. And we're just finishing that up. We're still getting some pledges and such in, so we'll have a count at the annual meeting. I can let you know that we had to, every February, every UU congregation sends in data about all kinds of things, including membership. The number we sent in February was 267. We've added members since then, and we've lost members since then. So I'll have a count for you.
So Lee Doyle online shares, for physically challenged individuals, consider OUUC providing bus services from a distant gathering place to facility for services.
Thank you, Lee. And I know Panorama's been doing that. They have a bus that brings people on occasion, and they often do that for a memorial service here for someone who lived at Panorama who's passed. OUC having a bus, Lee, you're on the board. You know what that means for capital costs and transportation costs and such. So certainly a possibility to think about. And a bus driver.
I have a question. Do we have a program in place for people to carpool or to get in touch if they would like a ride to church?
We don't have a formal program.
Okay. So that might be a nice idea. Because I
Yeah.
come often by myself and I've got plenty of room in my car.
Sure.
And I drive past a lot of people's houses on the way.
And it's the coordination piece of that, the communication and the coordination. So one of the things that we asked for was stewardship, and I think is going to be in the budget that we propose is a new member engagement person. It's not very many hours, but that's something that they might be able to get a team of volunteers together to coordinate as carpooling. And I know for folks who are in the choir who have partners and spouses, often they'll take two cars because the spouse doesn't want to come or the partner doesn't want to come for two services. And so, they're driving separately and such, which makes sense. And so it might be that we start with the choir and say, can we help coordinate you all with some carpooling or, a centralized place where you can park and come together. So, Carbon?
So online, regarding carpooling, Teresa shares, I occasionally see people ask for rides on the virtual bulletin board.
Yep, the virtual bulletin board is one place. And I think there's about 100 people on that bulletin board, which is way less than the people we have on Realm. So,
I just want to plug that bulletin board, and you can sign up to have it sent to your email address. And that's the only way you're going to ever find out about it, really. And I don't think a lot of people even know about it. It's very handy.
So just a plug for Realm. Individuals control their Realm settings, and so if you're in a group in setting, including if you're in a group in Realm, including the virtual bulletin board, you can set it up so that anything that gets posted comes to your email. And if you need help with that, contact the office. They can certainly help with that. So I'm curious, is there anyone who's participating today who uses the nursery or childcare? Looks like a no here. One of the things we've been doing since we went to two services is we provide the children's class at both services. And we're curious to see if we need to continue doing that or if there's one service that parents are tending toward. It's tending toward the second service. We'll provide nursery care for both services because that's the right thing to do. We might go to children's class at just one service. So, let's see. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your Sunday morning experience? Particularly related to the schedule, but anything else?
again, related to the choir, spreading the services out even 15 minutes. Right now, with the service starting at 10:45, frequently Troy shared with the choir that he can actually make it to the last service at his heritage, his religious heritage congregation, which starts at noon. So if we moved the service 15 minutes, he's not going to make it to his own his other spiritual home.
Yep. So you usually see Troy bolt out of here on Sundays, and that's why, so he can go be with his other community.
Well, my suggestion is to really think about it, that the way you have formatted it and requiring staff and congregants like the choir and a lot of times the same people are doing the kitchen all morning. And the thing is that we really don't have enough staff or volunteers for 2 services. That's my observation. And is there a better way to solve the problem that we're trying to solve as crowding in one service? For example, I know this probably won't go over, but I came here to make this suggestion. Have it another service at a completely different time and a completely different format. And it could be congregation-led, lay-led service, so you don't have to have Troy there. You may not even have music. For example, it could be led by the religious interest groups like the Buddhists. It would rotate the Buddhists, the Christian group, the pagan group, and then maybe just a free form, whoever shows up, and do a meeting like the Quakers do, get up and offer to the congregation whatever you're moved, something like that. I know it probably won't go over. I think you're going to have to keep doing this next year, but again, I don't think in my mind, it's not solving the problem.
It's not
And
solving what?
You could actually probably solve the crowding in one service if we just use the choir loft effectively.
So the problem you're talking about needing to solve, Tim, is that there's too many people for one service, is that right? I just want to be clear
I
about.
assume that was the reason
Yeah, there's too many people.
going to this experiment.
Right,
Okay, well,
right.
I guess you are probably surveying the staff and the choir, you said, and how do they really feel about
Right.
having to be here for 3+ hours or more?
Yep. Yeah, Carbon?
So just to kind of talk about that from the perspective of me, just from the tech team, seeing how the volunteers have been, because you kind of earlier talked about, maybe not having enough volunteers. And I've had, the same couple people show up to tech team, week after week. It used to be there was never any new volunteer for tech team. And since we've gone to 2 services, that the need it creates gives people a purpose to step up. And I've had several people actually, like just today, I had someone come up and offer, and I got an email. And so I think, of course, when we're growing, we're going to need new volunteers. But I also think when we create those spaces for them to feel needed, to have a fulfilling position, then more people will want to because it's more rewarding.
Somebody else, yeah, Arlene?
Yeah, I was just going to speak to the choir having to spend the whole day. You will notice that not all of us make it to both services. Some folks can only physically, emotionally make it to one. So they choose one, and we are a large enough group and a generous enough group and a caring enough group that we make music with who shows up. So, and we'll have a large rehearsal on Wednesday night of 40 people and run out of music, and 18 will show up on Sunday. And we do it anyway. So we adapt, and we've adapted, and there's room for personal choice in it, that no one is telling us you must come to both services. We have choice.
And I'll just, remind us, that's the big question that the board is engaging the congregation in right now, is how shall we adapt to being a bigger congregation? It's not shall we grow, but we are growing, so how are we going to adapt to that? Francis?
Just another thing with the choir, it's kind of fun to do the anthem we've been working on twice. Because we get to sing it more, so I think that's been one positive thing.
Well, something Arlene said, the last forum that I was at, we were asked about volunteering in some context, and I said, well, what about requiring all members to volunteer for something, and boy, that went over like a lead balloon. Because you require all members to pledge, right? And I said, well, what's the difference? I mean, it would be fit to your abilities and your interests, but everybody volunteer for something. And I don't know.
Thanks for the suggestion. We're capturing them all.
I just kind of want to add to that a little bit, that particularly I think Carbon's example was a good one. I think people think church leadership is anybody who's willing to stand up in front. And in fact, we have a whole church of people who somebody is happy to sit back there and not have anybody look at them. Somebody else might be happy to sing in the choir. There are so many skill sets that we all have. I know for sure there are people, that help in the kitchen, that is their way of service. So I think in some ways, the more opportunities we have for service, the more we open it up to other people. And that's why the board thought the member engagement person was really important, because that's somebody who can find the people that are a little too shy to volunteer and might be able to say, I know you love to weed because you mentioned it, and we weed on the first Saturday or whatever. So that aspect that the congregation has been willing to give money to have somebody to help with that will actually, I hope, make it more like a potluck, where we then have enough people with enough different skills that we fill everything. And it's kind of like voting with your feet. If there's something we can't find volunteers to do, that's probably a sign that we don't really want to do that. So, it's constant evaluation, and I know the board is really working hard on that.
Is the job for the proposed staff person for membership engagement posted somewhere?
Anita, it hasn't been approved by the congregation in the budget yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
we can't do anything regarding posting until after June 8th. But I can tell you, I have a job description and a posting ready to go.
Hi. I just wondered if you, Reverend Mary, or the board have consulted with other churches in our community who are, experiencing the same and what their solutions are.
Yeah, so I'll just say I attended a meeting of some of the lay leaders and religious leaders from mainline Christian communities, and their problems are 180 out from ours. They're declining. And yeah, they're really,
Having the problems that we are.
right. Congregations that are shrinking, financial giving that is shrinking in buildings that they can't maintain. The churches that are booming are the evangelical churches. And so they do the things that we talked about. They have services at different times during the week. They have services at different times of the day. So you'll see that there's, we do a service at 9 and 11 or, 9:30 and noon or whatever. And so it's 2 services and, some time in between and how to navigate that. So there's, those are kind of the standard things. And, folks have said, well, couldn't we do a totally different service at a different time? We could, and it takes about 20 hours to prepare a service. So that's got to come from somewhere. And we could do that. We would need the staff to do that, and we would need the volunteers to do that. So that's partly why we do 2 services that are pretty much the same, is that's what we've got the capacity to prepare. So one other question I just want to ask you, one of the things that we've wondered about is the printed order of service. And what if we didn't print an order of service? How would you feel about that? John says he would be fine with it.
I would be fine with not wasting the paper. If we could maybe alternately have something like on the door, because I like being reminded of the names of the people if I don't know them, the participants, especially the lay leaders and that kind of information, or other kinds of information, like sometimes I save it because the source of some reading, things like that. So if there's something like that posted that I could just take a picture of with my phone if I wanted that information or something, I think it'd be great to get rid of that.
We also post it on the website. The order of service gets posted on the website and sent out in the email. So, okay. So you don't need one physical, you want access to one. Got it. Yeah, if you can wait just a second, Anita's got it. Oh, okay. Thanks, Ann.
Now I have to think what I was going to say, but let's not throw away everything that we're used to. Yes, I think an order of service is useful to have. You can take it home, you can look up some of those readings and stuff.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, please don't ditch that too.
Got it. Thank you, Ann.
I think the paper one is a great luxury to have. I think it's lovely, especially for new people and people who don't want to be on their phones at service. I also see a great big blank wall right next to you, Reverend Mary, and we could, on the other side, and we could put up the order of service right there.
Well, sure.
On a big piece of paper.
What some congregations do is they do slides that say, what's coming and, what the reading is and the author and those kinds of things. We just need to have the capacity to create the slides every Sunday.
I use the paper one when I'm singing in the choir because I really need it. I need to know what song is coming next.
Yep, I got it. Okay, good. Yeah, Carbon, we have some folks online.
Yeah, Teresa online shares concerning the on the TV option, as we've done that for some of the Christmas services already, just not for our regular services.
Yep, Christmas Eve, we don't use a printed order of service. We just do slides.
And I actually have a separate thing myself, which is a few of our volunteers here will like having the printed order of service, kind of like what you were saying with the choir, where it's useful to know what's happening next.
Yeah.
And so maybe an idea that pops into my head is just having a smaller amount of them maybe at the office window or something. Well, maybe not create more work there, but.
But for the folks who are working, like the choir and the tech team and worship leaders and such.
This is just one tiny little idea. I don't think we need this cart of the hymnals in the room here. I think they're taking up space that could be an aisle. And we could have more chairs along here. I've noticed that when people are trying to get by with their walkers, it gets very crowded. And I don't see why it's in here. Could be out in the commons.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Anita. So I want to be mindful of your time, and Carbon, let me just check, is there anything else from anyone online that they'd like to share?
Yes, Connie Rule says that she appreciates the paper order of services for the reasons listed by others and the idea of offering only if someone wants one.
Okay, great. Anything else from folks here on site? Thank you for your...
I actually have one last one online that just came in, sorry.
Sure, no.
Because Holly Porter says, I understand the need for 2 services, but I hope we don't move the second service later. The later time already cuts into the day so much, and having the forums go later would be extra challenging.
It's balancing all the things, right? That's the challenge. So thank you so much for your thoughtful engagement of this puzzle that we try to put together to accommodate as much as we can. And really, ultimately, it's about making sure that we open our doors as wide as possible for all the folks who are seeking us out. It's unusual that we are growing. My Christian colleagues were like, "What are you doing?" And that's a longer conversation. So we're doing good things, and really grateful for that. So thank you again. Please fill out the survey if you like. Pass the word that it's available. We really appreciate the feedback, and we'll be taking it into consideration for what we do coming up next. The budget for next year does include 2 services because it's pretty clear we need that for the space. What time they are, we'll see. So I'll extinguish our chalice with these words from Andrea Hawkins Kemper. May we see all as it is, and may it be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? And if not now, when? Thank you all. Thanks, folks online. Have a good Sunday.